7 years of predictions. The Leo King warned you, he prepared you. Now, he is ready for those that can handle what is really next. There are many predictions he held back, and more to tell of what is coming. It was too deep for many. Predictions he blew all your minds with. With all the shocking revelations, you wouldn't believe the ones he still has kept inside. You weren't ready. He didn't share everything. You know he has all the receipts. All hardcore moments he has prepared you for is finally here. After his iconic lectures, Age of Deception, Rising Through the Darkness, Purgatory, What's Next 2020 to name some, his Hypergate prophecy schools. The Leo King, the heretic of our time in the astrology world, delivers what he really thinks. He never sold out. He never was afraid to give you truth. Now is time for those that can really handle the deepest truth. What the Leo King really thinks. He who doesn't understand should either learn or be silent. July 19th, 2024, only on highvibe.tv.
Welcome to your inspirational astrology horoscope for this weekend of July 20th and especially Sunday, July 21st, 2024. I'm astrologer Dave Palmer, the Leo King, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Well, make sure that you check out highvibe.tv, of course, for all the awesome content I do every day and all the awesome shows that we all do on highvibe.tv and the badass community. We have the numbers. We are the biggest spiritual community. It's crazy. I have all that data now. It's wild. So if you really want to find the social network for spirituality mixed with a feed of content and to be able to engage, you can even post your own videos in our community section. We don't censor. It's all at highvibe.tv on the apps or on the website or even on the TV apps. We cover it all. Also, if you have not watched or you were not part of the live event last night that I did, What the Leo King Really Thinks, oh, it's intense. These are the deeper predictions that I have, and also going back to different lectures over the last 7 years and showing you, well, there was more to it that still hasn't even arrived, and giving you that extra bump. Some of it I couldn't have said at the time because it would have, well, it already triggered a lot of people where I was at. So if you are courageous enough to watch, you can purchase it for $25 at highvibe.tv. Click on the heretic, which is right on the top of the website. So here we are on this full moon in Capricorn for the second time. We're here for the twice. And of course, this one has Pluto in conjunction to it. This also has the sun at the last degree of Cancer, but Pluto at 0 degree of Aquarius. Mars finally ingressing into Gemini and making a trine to Pluto. There's a lot happening on this one. Before I go into this chart, I just want to say this really is the full moon we just had a month ago in Capricorn, and then this one. It's a window. It's a window allowing you to see what's to come September 1st through the third week in November when Pluto ingresses back into Aquarius. But that Pluto Capricorn is coming back. I even have reminders behind me. I'm in a fucking weird matrix, Pluto back, weird room. Okay? So it's going to help you start to see. So everything you've been seeing over the last 4 weeks, there you are. That's what it's going to all be about. But we have to remind ourselves, number one, I know Pluto and Aquarius, or even when any time Pluto makes an ingress into a new sign, but we know it's going to ingress back into the sign that it's been for 16 years in this case. Don't fool yourself and think that you know what your future looks like. We haven't finished the ties, and Pluto has to put the full transformation and that full death, and so it becomes that extreme energy that we're starting to become aware of, right? Plus, we're starting to come into lots of retrograde energy, and we're going to have some very extreme retrogrades coming up here, especially for the last part of this year. So I would say that this is the full moon that's a reminder. It's a reminder that there are things that have to be buttoned up, finished up, things that have to be put to the grave in your spiritual life, in your evolutionary life, in order for you to move forward. And that's on the basic sense. And I also think too, this is a very interesting full moon. It's in connection with Neptune and sextile from the moon's transit, and the sun is in trine to Neptune, and we have Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. We have the sun at 29 degrees. We have this moon at 29 degrees. Mars just made its ingress into Gemini just as I'm doing this video right now. I'm doing this right before, I don't know, like 4 hours before the full moon's apex. A lot of stuff here at the cusps, and especially at these very high anaretic degrees that bring stress, but they also bring this energy of wanting to move out. And that's the weird part, is that this full moon in Capricorn, it's a second one. So we won't have another full moon in Cancer. And then on top of it, you have to remember, this is not, there's no games being played right now that's more in the kiddie kind of way. It's like serious shit, right? This is a mature time in your life. And this is really, I think, bringing us into a very good conscious awareness of that maturity we can actually use when Pluto does ingress back into Capricorn on September 1st through November, for us to actually get to where we really have had some sight. We've had some foresight. We've had some ideas. We've had some things that really are enticing. I mean, Pluto loves to entice at the beginning, and then it can also entice, but it usually, drops you to the bottom of the gutter, and actually you see what's in there, right? So, I would say, if whoever you are out there, whoever does watch this video, or whoever that you are, friends with, relationship with, or whatever, this is going to be a hard time now, because there's people who just don't want to see that before we move forward, we're going to have to go back. And I think we need to keep the dreams alive. And let's go into the chart, and I'll show you some of this stuff. Of course, I go really deep into this on High Vibe if you are on High Vibe. But this full moon happening right there with that conjunction to Pluto. And it is interesting seeing him at these cusps. Plus, the 0 degree of any sign is the pure energy of that degree, meaning anytime there's a planet at 0 degree, you get it 10 times any other degree, and you get it at its purest state, its full expression. So with Pluto here, look at already the world with technology. Everything's in very Uranus ways, and especially if you look at Uranus, it's still in Taurus, of course, and it's, of course, with that star Algol making its exact conjunction just like hours prior. And we've seen a lot of extreme things over the last 4 weeks. So, do you think we're going to see extreme things September 1st through November? 100% yes. This has just been the preview. The preview to going back to where we are. I like that I'm sitting in this like matrix room I made, because it's an interesting thought. Like, it reminds me of the Matrix. Like, Neo has to go back, right, to face the machines. No matter how much you want to try and, run away to your wherever you want to go. No, you got to go back, right? We all have to go back, and it's about responsibility. It's about integrity. And we've seen a lot of integrity transits with Jupiter on Aldebaran, and Jupiter, of course, is in Gemini, and we're seeing it here at 12 degrees, and now Mars in Gemini, finally out of its detriment. So I feel like this is a really good full moon for empowering. It's that conversation you have to have within yourself that Mars is going to trine Pluto and the full moon, right? So and we have to start to get this in our heads and see that the positive picture is these things that we want to have in our lives, these things that we want to grow with, they're going to take a basic understanding and truth. There's a revival happening within ourselves to get some more energy again with this Mars trine Pluto, especially with this full moon. But it's interesting now that Mars is going to sextile the sun, because after this full moon on Sunday, we will see, as we come into Monday, the sun ingress to Leo and make the opposition to Pluto, right? So we're coming into not just a full moon, not just the only full moon this year. It's the second full moon, just not any regular full moon. It's a full moon on the cusp of the exact 2 degrees that we are going to experience with Pluto in its most extreme forms in our lives. Remember, this is also highlighting a place none of us on the planet have been before, transit-wise. Because Pluto ingressing into Capricorn, right? It went in, it went back into Sag, and then it went back in. Scorpio into Sag, it went in, it went out, it went in. Libra into Scorpio, it went in, it went out, it went in. Pluto into Libra went out and went in and went out, right? So we're used to that. We're not used to, we've never been through this, any of us that are alive that could be possibly watching this video. It went in last year, it came out, it went back again this year, it's coming back, and then it's going to go back in. It's that extra 2 ingresses. Okay? And the fact that this full moon's covering that zone, ironically too, this is the zone that's been so looked at since 2016, like the night Trump won the election was when Mars ingressed over the spot and went into Aquarius, and he radically won, right? Jupiter and Saturn met here right when we were at the end of 2020, December 21st, ironically enough. Jupiter Saturn met at 0 degrees Aquarius. And then the one that was prior in that zone was 29 Capricorn in 1960. So that's a 60-year cycle area. Then we had Mars Saturn meet there, Mars Venus meet there. Okay, we've had so many transits meet at this 0 Aquarius, and then the sun's going to come and oppose Pluto. This is a very weird horoscope, because whether you want to look at it from a Mars trine Pluto, or a Mars trine the full moon, or a sun opposite Pluto, or a sun at the end of Cancer and ending a whole Cancer season, and we will not see a full moon in Cancer this year, or Mars leaving its detriment and ingressing into Gemini. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on. This is also Venus that happens to be in Leo, and this is coming within minutes of that 12th degree where Venus stationed direct last year, the first Venus retrograde in all of our lives, where it stationed retrograde in Leo. And it's exactly on the ascending node of Neptune. And Neptune's part of this full moon. So I think that this is very empowering, and it's empowering too, because it's allowing us with this Mars trine Pluto. It's allowing us with even the sun opposite Pluto. You know, these are these identification elements, right? The sun and Mars deal with your identity. Every other planet is not identity based, okay? So this is an important moment for us to really realize, okay, like, where am I emotionally wanting to go in my life? Who am I? And then it's been slow with Mars and Taurus. And it's like a long, heavy freight train. And we finally got to where, oh, okay, things start speeding up really quick, but also can get distracted. but at least we got Pluto here in Aquarius. It's about that we can start to see, okay, no matter what's going to happen of when I go back to Pluto and Capricorn, I can see that there are a lot of cool possibilities. And let me just focus on this moment, and we've got about a month until we get to that Pluto that ingresses in retrograde back into Capricorn. So, you know, it's also a nice sextile happening between Mars and the Sun. The Sun's about to come into its dignity in Leo in its home sign, right? So we're seeing some pretty cool aspects here. And I think it's really empowering. But that empowerment is about the more difficult things that are going to come. And that difficult part is, are you going to be able to handle it emotionally, handle it in your mind, and be the adult spiritually in yourself and mature as you're evolving right now in your awareness at peak levels, right? Like, we never thought we could, you know, we always say we know what it's going to feel like to evolve more and to become more conscious. Like, we learn so much more now than ever because we're at such high extremes. Even this Venus that's about to come and go back to where it stationed direct last year. This is Venus finally making a full trip around where we can say, okay, we can really start to have a better sense now of what we want, what's happening with relationships, these things in life that we have to take serious, but also the Sun is about to come into Leo. It's Mercury, though, that is in Leo, that's in its pre-shadow to the retrograde that's about to happen soon, and it's in direct square to Uranus. So that kind of throws off that Mars and Jupiter there that's in Gemini until the Sun ingresses into Leo, but this full moon is in Cancer, right? So we're trying to find this like safe home, yet, you know, this full moon in Capricorn twice is saying there's a lot of work. There's also a lot of things to finish up. One thing I like about Capricorn, it doesn't get maybe talked about enough, but, and I think this is why Pluto likes being in Capricorn too, is there's this finishing element about Capricorn, like finish the job. It doesn't matter if it takes 50 years, finish it, don't quit, right? So I feel that this is about not quitting. And the thing that's going to be the pressure cooker in your life right now to quit anything is your emotional mood ring. We'll call you a mood ring, right? Letting your emotions get too overwhelmed. Even though there is this trine to Neptune that the Sun has, I'm not a believer that a trine is better than an opposition or a square to Neptune. It's Neptune, and it's Neptune retrograde, right? We can get really lost there. It's a place to handle with care, even with a trine, right? Because you could literally be like, you know what? I might want to just take drugs every day. You know what I mean? It's a positive moment, and then it doesn't turn out so positive. I've seen it all the time. But it's about how do we handle our sensitivity better emotionally? How do we also at the same time with this North Node, South Node still in this Aries Libra axis, we're dealing with Mars Venus, right? And we're seeing now Mars ingress into Gemini. We've got Venus in Libra. We have to remember too that Mars throughout this whole transit in Gemini for this next about 40 days that we're going to be in here, which is going to be interesting that Pluto will ingress back into Capricorn with Mars in Gemini. And then what's really weird is Mars, once it ingresses into Cancer, we're going to see Mars be stuck in Leo and Cancer as we get to the end of summer and as we come into the fall. And we're going to see the retrograde at the end of the year with Mars retrograde in Leo and the oppositions to this Pluto. So we're not done with oppositions to Pluto. You've already seen Mercury. You've already seen Venus. Now you're going to see the Sun. And this full moon's really highlighting it. So I think we understand better with Mars, which is going to be for the end of this year and most of the beginning of 2025. Also, Jupiter. It's not going to happen next year, but in 2026, we have to start thinking, or actually, well, yeah, 2026, Jupiter will begin its opposition to Pluto, and that comes back to the triple conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto that happened in Capricorn in 2020. So a lot of people are trying to probably nail down this whole like cyber issue that's happening in the world and giving it this whole Uranian element. I I look at it different. I look at Jupiter and Pluto, because I made the prediction in 2020. I said the travel industry will never be the same. The school industry, universities will never be the same, especially in Capricorn and its fall position with Jupiter there. The systems are going to keep crumbling. And that's not a Uranus thing. It's a Jupiter in Capricorn meeting with Pluto 3 times. The last time that Jupiter met with Pluto 3 times was in Leo back in the 50s, right? So it's interesting because that's like when the idea of like, oh, get on a plane and dress nice and go out on a plane and let's build nice homes and go to school and you're looked at as a good person. All that's dead right now. The idea that you can just fly anywhere and it's just going to go easy, that's over. That's over. So, you know, this full moon to me, it's the last full moon in Capricorn of our lives with Pluto. Even though it's technically not in the same sign, you can't get any closer. So we've been through plenty of them. Every full moon in Capricorn from 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 is where it started to get a little different. And this one is a double full moon. And the last one wasn't with Pluto. This one is with it. So this is our last full moon in Capricorn with any near energy of conjuncting Pluto. And this is where Pluto still has to come back. So it's like, what's the point of this horoscope? I think the point deeply is being massively prepared. This is a confident full moon if you're willing to do the work and not quit. It's a confident full moon if you find that the security is in your spiritual life. And also to where it's okay to be a sensitive person, but you have to know the boundaries and you need to know that there has to be something within you that pulls yourself to the next level and to keep going in life, to keep going through these things. I know it could be kind of scary times for some people, but I think that a lot of the fears are, again, off things that you're trying to predict that the future exactly looks like. That could be more of a projection, especially with Neptune involved with this, or even with Pluto, which is dispositing Uranus, and it's on top of Algol, like what's evil, what's not, and so forth. But this is also like this extreme zone that's going to change the way the whole world operates forever. And we're, been kind of in this like fake transition, right? Even though we're in a transition, it's a fake one, meaning, oh, it looks like it's going to be normal still. No. You're not seeing the Pluto Aquarian world yet. You're seeing some, let's call it billboards. It's still been Pluto Capricorn. When we get to the end of the year and we see Pluto ingress back into Aquarius and we see Mars in opposition, and once we see that Mars come out of that opposition and we get to that first set of eclipses in March of 2025, that's my biggest prediction of when the world's going to change forever. That's when you're going to see what Pluto in Aquarius is like. So I think another thing that you should do on this horoscope and on this full moon is release this idea that you have it all figured out of what it looks like. Because the world dynamics are going to change. The structures are going to keep crumbling. There's no way to sustain. I mean, like any astrologer out there who's going to try and tell you that we can just keep, evolving the systems that really are weighing us down as a collective is just, insane. This is where Pluto reminds us deeply within ourselves, like what is, Capricorn's like, I only need the backpack with the things I need that are the most important. I don't need to take all that Cancer extra weight with me, right? Like you don't want to be the person on the trail with like 5 backpacks, right? It's too heavy. Nobody else wants to carry it for you. And I think there's that reminder that like, are we just going to keep trying to stay comfortable through the lens of comfort in kind of the sense of this kind of more immature way, or even it brings us back to when we were all infants, being, whether we had a mother or not, right? I mean, we all had a mother, but whether or not we had our mother there or not, how we were taken care of, like these are all the things that really do come into this deeper moment here, because it's like, we all had to then one day eventually, we all left our mom at some point to walk, right? To move forward. I mean, to witness this as a dad now in the last year has been very helpful for me, especially as an astrologer, to understand Cancer better. I'll be honest. I used to just look at over Cancer. I'm like, I'm a Leo, fucking Cancer. Thank God I'm a Leo. But like to understand the dynamics, and I'm very Capricorn and 10th housey with my chart. So I'm like, oh yeah, like business, make shit happen. But it's kind of a funny that, you know, this is a world that you've been seeing that isn't what it's going to be. It's still running the old systems that have all got these weird, you know, things in place, because before the bottom drops, we're going to get enough. Pluto at least does the death blow, like two systems or two situations. Like you can see the face of death coming, right? You can see the erosion happen before, you know, the cliff just falls, like, right? It's like you can see things slowly happening, and we have to be aware of, like, what is that new world going to really be like? Am I really prepared for that? So this is about taking some better stock now about, I'm going to play life with the big plans I want, but knowing that that old world and the new world I thought, neither are going to look the way that they're going to be forward. Nothing is. So I think that this Mars and Gemini, we need to be curious. Jupiter and Gemini, this is a huge curiosity of what the whole world's going to look like. And that's the best part. And the comfort's going to be when you accept that. The comfort's going to be too with this Mercury square Uranus, like, there's great ideas. It doesn't mean that you have to implement them. It doesn't mean that you have to, you know, freak out about them. We're going to see that Mercury retrograde, and that Mercury retrograde will square Uranus another 2 more times. But, you know, it's definitely a moment for us to remind ourselves here, like, how do we stay in our positive place? Even with Saturn and Neptune retrograde in Pisces, it's about not having a leaky subconscious projection element, not allowing ourselves to, you know, just keep, like, just not giving a fuck about things, because really Pisces can have that shadow of just like, whatever, I'm over it. Some people call it surrender. Sometimes that surrender is not a good surrender, right? Like, let me just drink, or let me just escape, especially with Uranus on Algol, right? Like there is dark forces out there, and there are good forces. And the fact that Jupiter was just on Aldebaran and Uranus is in conjunction with the fixed star Algol as well, to have Jupiter and Uranus that we just saw make a conjunction in May, and now they're on both these fixed stars, they both deal with the stories about dark and light. And so you can easily see now in your life, where's the light and where's the dark. You can see in the world, where's the light and where's the dark. I think that it's more, stop worrying about what everybody thinks, because this full moon is also in Capricorn, but it's conjunct Pluto and Aquarius. And it almost becomes like, don't take your destiny and start shifting it based off the opinion of other people. Don't get lost in worrying about what everybody thinks. That's why that sun's going to come into Leo. But, you know, a lot of people base their comfort and security, if we actually take the Cancer and Capricorn axis, which again, that's where the nodes were during the Saturn-Pluto conjunction of 2020 and for the first part of 2020, when all the shit went down. A lot of people get lost too about, like, I want to find my recognition, my social life, and in the bigger scheme, not just like, you know, people think social life is Aquarius. Aquarius is like, you know, your friends you see once in a while, random people you meet. Capricorn's the people that you need to meet, that you make the big things happen with. And a lot of people position themselves in a comfortable place because they don't want to lose something. You have more to lose with your reputation by being weak, emotionally scared, to really hold the position that you feel is true to yourself, no matter what that is. Especially when you think of the political stuff going on right now. There's no way that either side is perfect. There's no way that you can say that your side's the best fully, right? There's only going to be like maybe like a hair's length of maybe a little bit more light here, right? And we don't know what the other side's bringing yet. Which already there's a lot of questions about how that has all happened, right? So, it's kind of one of those moments here where don't be afraid to own the shit that you got to own, right? Like I told people, and I've said it for years. Yeah, people know I lean more right, but like what's going to be the bitter pill you're going to have to choose here at the end? Because it really gets a little weird because, I'm an astrologer. The Republicans hate astrologers. They hate anybody who's not religious, right? So, it's kind of like one of those things to where it's like, I like all these other things, but fuck, you know what I mean? Or, I do inclusive astrology, right? So there's questions about inclusivity for real, but I know the history of that party. It's actually the one that made things inclusive. So it's a bitter pill. And it's like, I'm one of those people at this moment. I can't say I know what's going to happen for sure. Although I have my stuff. I do say my stuff if you do go watch my video. But I will say this, and this is something I said in my special. And I'm just going to leave it at that full moon right there. I want to say this, and I mean this sincerely with love to all creators out there and all astrologers and all tarot readers and anybody out there. There is just one thing that I do fear about this full moon in Capricorn. We've already seen well, I'm going to keep it the light version. The heavy truth version is on that video I just did. But be careful what you say out on the internet now after this full moon. Let's just say that we're getting into the transits of when the writ of habeas corpus was taken away. Ironically, under Lincoln. And with all the events that have transpired over this last 4 weeks, you're not protected on YouTube. You're not protected on your TikTok. Okay? Unless it's on your own platform where technically people are commencing commerce and agreeing to terms of service that you create to protect yourself. This is where that Capricorn shit is the evolution. Do you really understand not just business, but do you understand how to protect yourself? Because both sides, Cancer and Capricorn, are protection. But Capricorn is like, do you actually do that? Or have you given all your energy away and thinking that you're fine with these other places? So I think that, this full moon's triggering why they've registered podcasters in Canada, why, a lot of this weird data shit's happening right now. It's not what you think. It's much more of like setting up this really interesting, and it's not interesting in a positive way, but it's curious to me of like this system of really, really wanting to do whatever. We already know the last 3.5 years, what have we seen? The highest amount of censorship that we all have seen in our life, right? And demonizing people who speak any truth, and also threatening. The struts are going to come back, Pluto and Capricorn, right? And this full moon is conjunct this Pluto. So when it comes to social media, I feel like this social media thing is going to get really like weird. And again, this isn't me trying to promote for my own shit, like for high vibe. I'm just saying, like, go find wherever you got to go. Do it the Capricorn way. Or speak in, a language that people kind of understand that wouldn't get you incriminated. And I mean that from my heart. I've been doing this a long time. I know all the laws. And they already have taken down ads for us as astrologers and tarot readers and stuff, that we can't do ads. So I think it's time for people who do this work, that do it and think that they can just say what they really want, you're not going to be able to anymore say what you really want. They've already censored a lot of people who did, right? And then kind of unlocked it. But the way that things are going, the way that this full moon and Pluto it's going to trigger events over these next 2 weeks as the sun ingresses into Leo to oppose Pluto, and as we see this moon come into its waning over the next 2 weeks for that new moon in Leo. It's going to be interesting because it's the last zodiac sign we're going to be in fully, Leo, of before Pluto ingresses back into Capricorn. So you're going to have to use this willpower that Mars and Gemini, and to be smart, use this Jupiter, look at the facts, and start better understanding the environment that's happening right now. And start, instead of looking at, and that's where Pluto and Aquarius is, right? Like, what's happening to other people in the world? Let me look deeper at this. What are they receiving? What are they going through? Yeah, I would say that this is a time to be smarter and understand, these rules, these things. And if you're sick of politics, everybody's sick of whatever Pluto is at the end of a sign. So everybody's sick of Capricorn. It's not just politics. People want the opposite always, vacation life, or they want the one zodiac sign that Pluto's already made an ingress into twice and is going to come back for a third one in November, which you've never done that with Pluto before in your life. So we have to remember that Pluto's so far out that it also has begun since 2017 and 2018, this transit of where it goes down below. If we were to look at the celestial equator from a helio point of view, like, we're seeing the declination go where Pluto goes farther out and way far south. And it takes longer for Pluto to go through signs. So we're in a world that's not going to advance fast anymore. It's going to be slow. So start to get ready. I don't care how fast the Earth transits look from a geo perspective. You have to understand that we are not going to ever evolve as fast as we've seen in our lives from decade to decade to decade. Decades are going to feel like years, or a better way to put it, like decades will feel like 100 years of evolution opposed to a decade, the longer we go through this. So I didn't even realize it too. I'm not going to show the chart, but you can look it up. Like, Fortuna is starting to conjunct Chiron as well. And, I do feel like there are some, if you're in a positive space and you're very secure with who you are, and you also understand just the basics of what's going on and how to handle life. We're seeing Venus and Jupiter start to make a sextile as well. I do feel like, maybe good things are going, but we're all going to deal with that Fortuna. You don't know with Fortuna where it's going to land. And if it's on Chiron, don't let your ego let something fall into place weird that you're forgetting about all the other things that have fallen into place in a good way in your life, right? I think that's going to be extremely important during this time. And we need to also really remember the last 4 weeks as we now have this 4-week window until we come into Pluto. That it's technically 5, but we use that same kind of a window the next month, right? We have like this 1 month left now to where we prepare. We've gotten the best visions from God. We've gotten the best visions to see and forecast the dynamics, the things in the world that are going to be the central focus at play. And of course there's going to be more than that, but at least we've got a good sense of a lot of the things. And I know a lot of people keep thinking this is a full moon that ends Biden, but it doesn't feel that way as of yet. And you all know I'm not a fan of that guy, but I know a lot of astrologers are trying to make predictions out there, but that guy's old, and that guy's the guy who came in with Pluto and Capricorn as a vice president, and who knows what he actually really is. And we have to still go back into Pluto and Capricorn. So there's more to the story than that just being if he's going to be in the race. The big question is, will they let him be the president to finish out? That's going to be the big question. Or if he makes it to be president, meaning is he going to be taken out or pass away? Instead of it be this kind of Nixon or Johnson, kind of moment of, Nixon leaving the White House, or Johnson taking himself out of the race. I think it's more President Pierce style with the astrology of, oh no, these are my delegates, and then going in and them changing the delegates to Buchanan. That would be playing the same tune that we're in. So, and I could be wrong on that one. I'm not going to make that like a big prediction, but that's my sense of it right now. And that's the way that they're going to make people mad who don't want Biden, and then make people happy who love Biden, and then still cut both of them down, right? Like, they already gave the sympathy card now to Trump. Now they're going to have to do the sympathy thing to Biden. And that would be he was going to fight and stay in, and something happened. Think about that. All right. Right. They got to give a hero element to him. They're not going to let him just Mr. Burns his way out. I mean, I have no problem saying that I don't think he's been the president, right? I don't think that he is, right? There was no military insignia when he got his inauguration. He did not get a 4-gun salute. He got a 3-gun salute. There was no insignia. If you see Judicial Watch, they just got this weird, back in June of 2020 through August of 2020, bipartisan. It was, of course, confidential, but like this election interference, like where they played like these election games, and they gave 4 scenarios. And the 4th scenario was Joe Biden wins by a small margin. Everything that they wrote is exactly what's happening. And they say, though, in all of that there was no president, though. And that's why you don't see the military insignia. And that's fucking creepy. So I've been saying that since day one. So, I mean, okay, like I'll throw out one more thing, since this is the full moon's about to apex here in 3 hours. And y'all know I love a good conspiracy. Who is going to turn on this new automatic draft as a president? The one that's easier to access, or the one that nobody has access to? Think about that one. Right? You can yell and scream as a parent or as somebody who's in that age group. And I'll do it as Joe Biden. No, nobody has access to me. Okay? I hope that, because this isn't about right or left, I hope, though, that the left does wake up to, like, that you guys have been being played just as much as the right's been played in many ways too, right? But like, if you haven't woke up through this shit, and the worst is if you know the astrology and you didn't do your homework about these transits and what played out in history, because the media will not mention President Pierce being the only incumbent president to go into a convention with his delegates and so solid and lose, and they pick another person. So, it's because it's connected to the Civil War. That's why. And they don't want to remind the world that the Democrats love the Civil War. They loved to secede. And at the same time, they loved slavery. And then they loved having all the states have these horrible, laws and KKK in the South. And they always try to credit Johnson with passing it as a president because he signed it. It was the Republicans that in both houses signed it or voted for it, right? So it was the Republicans again who came through in 1964. So don't think that the left at this moment is going to save things. They like people being in control from censorship and health things now and COVID this and that. They love it. They don't want you to be free. But the other side wants you to be free, but they also want you to be a fucking Christian. So, so it's like there's no fun in all of it, right? At the end of the day. So, but I hope that people start to think about it, because there's some weird astrologers out there that I found that are fucking like, they're just not handling this that well. Like, let's just say that they're not handling it okay. And we still have a lot of accountability questions for all the liberal astrologers out there who said nothing like this would happen. So, and I've said that with Robert Phoenix, and it's like really sad that none of the astrology community on people you should hope that are your colleagues want to address any of it. None of it. Especially the stuff we talked about a month ago. All right, what do we got here card-wise? Ooh, a little Two of Pentacles action here. It is a little juggling right now. It does feel like every day it feels like we kind of are an emotional wreck, but it's not an emotional card. It's a physical card. It's a pentacle. I think that finding balance in this moment is only going to happen when you have to be willing to kind of move between, this world, that world. Very matrixy. But there also is an element to this card of just understanding where you're at. Like, okay, I'm on water. I have to adapt. It's a card of adaptation in your physical environment. Right? Like, I'm on the land. Okay. Like, all right. Don't need to have my sea legs on. Right? Like, that's the basics. It also is a card where it can feel like we're juggling a lot, but we got to find a way to put a good rhythm to things. It's also a great card about finding a rhythm in matching a rhythm in a weird way. And we got a 9 of Wands in reversed. So don't quit. I know that we wish things could maybe be more perfect in life and feel more perfect or have things work in a better way. But don't keep trying to unload the actual real destiny for yourself. Like don't definitely get rid of some of the weight that's not worth it. But don't quit the journey. Don't quit where you're really going right now. Like, you have the stamina and you have the power. And I know it's kind of hard to see because when you're in a second full moon, and especially one that's apexing at the very end of a sign, and then we're going to see the sun ingress into Leo the day that follows, and the moon will already be in Aquarius. So it's like we're going to be technically at like 4 or 5 days of sun, Cancer, moon, Capricorn through the Cancer transit. And then you're just now going already into the Leo season, right? With all this energy where we will have another full moon in Aquarius, but this one already is apexed in Capricorn. But, we're going to have multiple days in Leo, sun, and moon in Aquarius, more than the traditional, right? So, and we got that on the other side too. So it becomes this, like, it feels like we're stretched. Mars was in Taurus. We will have some spice back of life. And that Pluto energy is reminding us with Mars and Pluto, this is the last good aspect. until we get to next year. And we're talking about until we actually see after the retrograde and after the Mars retrograde in Leo back into Cancer at its fall position and then come direct. And then not until we get to Mars in Libra do we see another trine to Pluto. And that is next year all the way, literally, summer next year, beginning of summer next year. So this is your gas stop. Fill up with the highest octane fuel within yourself. Burn and know how to burn that fuel and keep in very Capricorn ways. Know how to maintain and not push the gas too fast when you need it. Like, we're gonna have to use all this stamina to get us through the next year, because we're a month away from it becoming the tinder that sparks some of the wildest shit we'll ever see in our life for 3 months. And then when we come into the eclipses of March of 2025, that will be the most radical moment we've ever seen in all, I'd say, more than modern history, I would say, of the age of Pisces. Like, they'll be writing about that and those premonitions. And then, 2026, Saturn, Neptune, that's really the moment we'll start to see the definition. We're in a weird place. That Two of Pentacles goes really well. We're in between worlds. And you can't quit. You don't want to get stuck in the middle. That'd be the worst thing, in between worlds. You want to keep heading towards life, knowing that things are going to change and understanding that change and being smart, planning out how to handle things if they do go that way, if they don't, and if you don't know how it's going to handle it because it's too unpredictable, which there's a lot of that, you're still smart enough, you're still wise enough, and you still have the integrity within yourself to take the time to make the right choice. And sometimes we have to say no to things that we really want to say yes to. That's something else that comes up during this. Boundaries, understanding the values as well, but also remembering the sun in Leo. It doesn't matter that Pluto's in Aquarius. It's the home that the sun rules Leo. And it's this power, it's more powerful than Pluto. That life right now is more powerful than death. The death aspect is helping our lives evolve. And when you remind yourself about that, that's the biggest thing that's turning, that we already are in, is that every time the sun is in Leo, it is a conjunction with the moon to Pluto and Aquarius, and more importantly, in opposition from the sun and its dignity to Pluto and Aquarius. And that'll get even more intense, but in a better way when Uranus finally ingresses into Gemini for a moment next year. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you so much. Make sure you come on down to highvibe.tv. You can watch the recording from The Heretic, What the Real Leo King Really Thinks. It's on highvibe.tv, and I appreciate your support and, of course, being a subscriber, be part of the community and social network, and all the videos and the other content and all the shows like Full Disclosure, Deep Astrology, my sun signs, and so forth. I appreciate you all. I'll see you all on Monday. Bye-bye.
7 years of predictions. The Leo King warned you. He prepared you. Now, he is ready for those that can handle what is really next. There are many predictions he held back, and more to tell of what is coming. It was too deep for many. Predictions he blew all your minds with. With all the shocking revelations, you wouldn't believe the ones he still has kept inside. You weren't ready. He didn't share everything. You know he has all the receipts. All hardcore moments he has prepared you for is finally here. After his iconic lectures, Age of Deception, Rising Through the Darkness, Purgatory, What's Next 2020 to name some, his Hypergate prophecy schools. The Leo King, the heretic of our time in the astrology world, delivers what he really thinks. He never sold out. He never was afraid to give you truth. Now is time for those that can really handle the deepest truth. What the Leo King really thinks. He who doesn't understand should either learn or be silent. July 19th, 2024. only on highvibe.tv.